Landlord has been getting a lot of heat online because he decided to evict a tenant with a terminally ill child. But did he make the right decision? I'm Tony, and this is Real Estate Investing and Landlord News. Alright, so I have an interesting article for you today, and it's going over this landlord who decided to evict the tenant who has a terminally ill child. And this child only has a few months left to live, right? So the landlord had a good reason to want to sell the property, and I don't think that the landlord was trying to be malicious by going through the eviction process and needing these tenants to leave, but he received a whole heck of a lot of people who were just not happy with the decision. Now, personally, I just wouldn't have shared the decision online. Okay, I don't share every little eviction story I have and every little personal detail story that I have, because I know a lot of people, they see this stuff very negatively. Okay, I tell you the stuff that I see as being friendly enough for the internet, right? So not everything that landlords do is going to be just worth reading about or sharing with everyone else that you know. Okay, we already have a bad name from all the false stories that they tell about us, right? And so when people read this heart-wrenching story about somebody who has a terminally ill child, they want to attack the landlord. They want to say, well, you're evil, you're the one who is messing things over, you're the reason why people are, they're nothing but greedy, right? And they don't ever even look at our side of the story. What is the reason that we have to go through with this eviction right now? So, hopefully the article that I'm about to show you, it goes more into those details. So before I get into the article, go ahead, hit the like, subscribe button, maybe leave a comment down below and let me know what you think. So, the internet's pretty anonymous. So if you want to anonymously leave a story, in the comments as a landlord of a tenant that you had to evict, and normally you wouldn't share with other people, I'd like to read some of those stories. It's quite interesting, some things that happen, and it's not always what people perceive. They say, oh well, we've got a tenant and they were involved in a car accident, and now you're evicting them after they were in this horrible car accident. Like, yeah, they didn't pay the rent for 6 months and I'm about to lose my house. Yeah, I have to evict them, regardless of the hardship that they're going through. And maybe that's the same thing that's in this article. So let's get into it. This article is coming from Newsweek.com, and it says, landlord's reason for evicting family with terminally ill child dragged. Yeah, and this isn't the kind of article I normally read. Newsweek isn't exactly the best source of information, in my opinion. But I thought that the story was interesting. No telling if it's a true story or not. But anyway, let's get into the article and see what it says. No parent wants to think about their child dying before them, but this family has been told their 5-year-old son has a terminal illness. And to add to the stress, a landlord has given them a few months to move out of their home. In a now viral post, Unique Jaguar 9688 explained he inherited the house 11 years ago, and a family has rented the property for 5 years. But recently, a buyer has given him an offer he cannot refuse, so he has decided to sell the house. However, the family has pleaded for more time as they haven't got the funds or time to move out. Redditors are outraged by the 47-year-old's post, but Mia Sophia Mel, the owner of a real estate brokerage, has backed the original poster. So, the first thing is, this is a story coming off of Reddit, right? I don't even, do Reddit, but from what I understand, it's a forum where they have little subsections where they can talk about, very specific little topics, right? And so, I might look into it in the future to bring more articles out of, right? But anyway, a user who didn't post their name or anything. That's why, I always question if these stories are actually, true or not, but we'll just go with it and just, pretend like it's true for the purpose of this video, right? And basically they inherited this property. So this person is an accidental landlord. This person is not an intentional real estate investor. This might be their only rental property, okay? And I'm willing to bet it probably is, okay? So we're talking about a small landlord who owns one rental property. And guess what? One day they get an offer on this property, and it's a very good offer, and they decide they want to sell the place, right? But the place has tenants who live in it. So, what do? Do you just say, okay, well, I'm not going to sell the place so that the tenants have somewhere to live? I mean, you're putting the landlord, the property owner, in a bad situation. Now, I understand that this child has a terminal illness, but, then we go into the question of, hey, how long is this, how long are they expecting the child to, survive? How much longer? And, even in, best case scenario, sometimes it could be a lot longer than they think that the child lives. So, how long are we going to be putting on hold the sale of my property in order to make sure that these people don't have to go through an eviction right now? These are good questions. These are important questions. But come on, I'm gonna keep going so that hopefully they have more details in this article. Speaking to Newsweek, Mel said, "No one wants to put a family on the street. It's extremely unfair and even manipulative to burden someone with your personal issues, regardless of how severe or sad they are. If the tables were turned and the landlord was in a situation that negatively affected the family to where repairs couldn't be made, or he was losing the house to foreclosure, the probability of the tenant pitching in to assist or even understand is unlikely." And I like that. I like this response, even though a lot of people are going to see it as cold-hearted, right? But we have to look at it as though the tables are turned, right? Let's say that the landlord, right? They are, experiencing huge issues where they don't have the money to do repairs to the property. They don't have money to do maintenance to the property, right? And they are in a big amount of financial trouble where they could possibly lose the property to foreclosure. Is the tenant going to suddenly pull extra money out of their pocket to make sure the landlord's doing okay? No, of course not. I've never heard of a story of tenants helping out a landlord like that. Okay? Instead, the tenants, they feel entitled to the landlord treating them like that when they would never do it the other way around. So, yeah, I mean, that's a very, very good point. And what they said there about no matter how severe your personal issues are, they are not the problem of the landlord. Okay? So, now, I will say this, though, okay? As a small landlord, if you are financially capable and willing to do such a thing, right? You have no obligation. You have no right, legally or otherwise, right? And I don't believe it is morally wrong either. But if this is something that you want to do, okay, then some landlords, they do, they reach out and they say, okay, well, you know what? I will give you an extra month or two in order to get your affairs in order, okay? And the real question is, though, and this is what I'm wondering, we need more details, okay? And so, I think that I need to keep reading so that we can get those details. Explaining his story, the man states, a buyer has offered $60,000 over the market price because of the property's location. This was an opportunity I couldn't pass up, he wrote. The family's tenancy agreement is until the middle of March, and usually they renew it. But this time, the landlord isn't willing to go ahead as he has decided to sell it. I contacted the husband, Michael, and let him know I would not be renewing this time. To say that he was upset was an understatement. It turns out that he and his wife are currently in hospice with their son, who has a terminal heart condition. The doctors have given him a month or two to live. I knew the boy was sick, but I never knew it was so serious, he wrote. The Redditor explained Michael said there is no way they can pack up the house as they are spending most of their time at the hospice, which is 3 hours away. He thinks it's terribly unfair that I expect him to sacrifice any of the time he has left with their son in order to move. He called me a heartless sociopath, explained the landlord. So, yeah, now we have a little bit more details, and now, I can give a tad bit better response. So, basically, from what I'm reading here, the landlord had no clue this guy's kid was sick. No clue, okay? So, obviously, I don't get into the personal lives of my tenants. I have no clue what's going on in their lives. I'm living my life, completely separate from them. They're sending me the checks. And the only thing he's thinking is, okay, well, at the end of their lease agreement, which is at the end of March, right? In a couple of months, or in the middle of March, it said, in a couple of months, he's just not going to renew their lease. So he's giving them 2 months basically to get out of there, and they're not going to be renewed, and then the property will probably sell right after that. Okay, so I mean, that honestly seems quite fair. Now, he didn't know that the child was in hospice care and it only had a month or two to live, but keeping that in mind and keeping this story in mind, right? It's 2 months out from March right now. Okay, it's the middle of January right now, and it's 2 months out. They said the child only had, a couple of months to live. And so, keeping that in mind, this might be a non-issue. The child might have, and remember, people are going to say, "Oh, I'm heartless," right? But I'm just saying that if you need the people to leave, then you have to. There has to be a timetable. Your purchase for sale. If you already have a purchase agreement signed, right, then your buyer might back out. But at the same time, if the buyer does back out, right, then you have a property in a very good part of town that likely will sell for the exact same amount, or the buyer might just say, screw it, I'll wait an extra month or two to get these tenants out first, and then we will move into the property. Either way, you could possibly throw some different ideas out there if you wanted to give these people an extra month or two and let them go on a month-to-month lease. Now, then I want you to keep in mind that what jurisdiction, what locality they're in makes a huge difference on what they can do. Okay, so in some localities, if you have these just cause eviction or certain no fault eviction stuff, then they can't remove the people that easily just by letting their tenancy end. Okay, so hopefully they're not in an area like that. But I probably would work with the tenant if possible. Okay, but I don't think the landlord is being cruel by not knowing that you had a child in hospice care, but having a signed contract. See, we honor our contracts, right? That's one thing as landlords that we're all about our contracts. So if you have a lease agreement and it's only for a year, if you have personal stuff going on, well, you know what? I have the right to say I'm not going to renew that lease. That's my personal opinion. The landlord does have that right. If you're able to work with the tenant and get them so that they can stay maybe an extra month, so that they can get their affairs in order, then so be it. But at the end of the day, they're going to have to go. They got to go. Okay? Regardless of what they have going on in their personal life, you are selling the property. You are getting out of the landlord business. You have a buyer lined up, contract signed, and yet, they want to stay. And I mean, yeah, for how long? Let's say that their son doesn't, pass away within the next month or two, but, is able to hold on for the next 6 months. So now, they've been holding up the sale of your property for, 4 additional months, and what are you supposed to do? Is the buyer going to sit around for that long? Maybe the real estate market will crash in this time. Who knows what's going to happen? All I know is that, simply put, right, you have to get these people out of there. They have to move on. They have to just come to terms with the facts that, hey, a lot of bad stuff is happening at the same time right now, and it is beyond our control. The landlord, just doing what's best for him and his business, and I sympathize with his position. And, I don't know if I would do the same thing, but, I can't criticize him if he needs to sell this property right now. Especially, I don't know this guy's finances. I don't know what he's going through in his life. He said it was an offer he couldn't refuse. He might be in financial trouble as well. And nobody gives a crap about, well, I need the money right now, so I got to sell this place. But, no, you think the tenants give a crap about what he's going through in his life? No, of course not. Okay? Tenants just don't care what landlords are going through at all. They think that we're all these rich, greedy people up here somewhere with no problems. Well, you know what? We're people too. Okay? We're all people, I have relatives who pass away. I have, medical emergencies that happen. I have huge financial hits. I have all of the same issues that my tenants have. And I don't bother them with my problems, and they shouldn't bother me with theirs.